Mm-hmm.
I was born here in Issaquana County. My birthday is August 10th, 1924.
And what did you sort of growing up? What was your education like? What did?
Well, when I was growing up here, you got to understand, Issaquana County is a rural county, and it's agriculture. That's all it was farm work. And I was born just about 5 miles south of here, west of here. And I went to school here in Issaquana County until I was about 17 years old when I went to service. My mother passed when I was between 11 and 12, so that's kind of on my own from then on. But anyway, it was 6 of us. There was 8 in the family, my mother and my father, and had 2 boys and 4 girls. And I was born on a plantation and reared up on the plantation. And in 1900, well, let me talk about schooling, how our schools were at that time. I think you'd be interested in that. Due to the fact, see, when I started school, we didn't have no more than about 5 or 6 months schooling like that per year. And I had to walk to school, about 2 or 3 miles. I never rode a bus to school in my life. I never had a free lunch, or free books. I never had a free lunch, nothing. I had to walk to school. And when the harvesting time was, which long about in September and October, things of that nature, most of the time we had to be in the field working. And you go to school when it rained, or you go to school after the harvesting season. And by March, not about March, April, you're back in the field work again. So therefore, you couldn't get over about 4 or 5 months schooling per year. That's all you got. And the highest grade that you could go was 8th grade, because they didn't have a high school in the community where I lived at. And I couldn't walk from 25 miles to high school. So therefore, that's what I was called. And it was just a farm area. I worked, my first started working for 40 cents a day as a water boy, toting water for the people who chop cotton, things of that nature. And they were getting 60 cents a day. Men was getting 75 cents a day for working. And the men worked from before the sunrise to the moonrise at night, right? $1 a day. So after my mother passed, I started to work for a guy called Felix Nicholson on the place where I live at today. I was a water boy there for him. He let me work. He paid me $1 a day. That's back in 1937. He gave me $1 a day, just like he paid the men. And I could go to work there anytime, whenever, rain or shine, he'd let me work. And when I got 16 years old, I left and went to Stonewall with my auntie, where my other sisters and brother were, and stayed up there for about 5 or 6 months. I made 17 years old on the 10th day of August in 1941. And I decided that I didn't want to work for $1 a day with all the work we had to do. And I left there and came back to Issaquana County. And on the 17th of August, I volunteered for the service. I put my age up. And my father, he signed the paper for me to go. And I went into the service at 17 years old. I was in basic training at Fort Lee, Virginia, on the 7th day of December 41 when they attacked Pearl Harbor. And so I left on the 23rd of December. I left there, and this ship is Sacramento, California. In California, I stayed in California for a while, and from California to state of Washington. From there back to Oregon, back to California, and from California to Rapid City, South Dakota. So I went overseas in 1943. I served about 5 years, 3 years of those years or better. I served in the European Theater of Operation. And after I got out the service, I married when I was in the service. And after I got out the service, well, I went back to the place where I live today, Vailwood. And my father-in-law, I had a small house there, and my wife and I stayed there for a couple of years. And the land I own today, that's the land I helped clear up in 1941 before I went into service. And I was fortunate enough to come back and get that land, 6 or 7 acres. And I'm the youngest person on Vailwood at that time to had an opportunity to get some land like that. And I paid for my land. I had it for 40 years payment. I paid it off in 18 years time.
And where did you get the credit to buy
Farm Home Administration. See, back here they cut up a lot of places into 40 acres and sold them out to people. You had some for whites and you had some for black because everything was segregated back in those times. And I was fortunate enough to get this land, and I paid for it at 18 years time, 22 years ahead of time. And so from then on, in 1957, I tried to register to vote right here in Issaquana County, Faxon Business. I am the first black person, I believe, at that time, in 57, to try to register for and pay my poll tax, $2 poll tax.
Were you able to successfully register at that time?
1957, but I didn't pass the test. They had a literature test, and the literature test was just interpreted according to what the registrar, or not what the test said. It was all the like the way the poll tax to prevent black people from getting the right to vote, due to the fact that we were the majority in this county. And
so when you decided to do that, what motivated you to do it? Were you connected to other civil rights stuff that was going on at the time, or?
Well, kind of take back to what motivated me to do things. In 1942, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 43, when Franklin D. Roosevelt, his last term, when he ran for president, he died right after he got elected. I was in Le Cateau, France, as a corporal, non-commissioned officer, and they say that all you from other states, but the southern states, you can come and vote. And it just dawned on me. I was about 19 years old. I'm putting my life up for my country. And there are people in every other state, but the southern state, had a right to vote. But I could die for my country, but I couldn't have a right to vote for it. And so it just, other changed person. And from the things that I had seen and the things that I had been through with and everything, it just completely changed person. And so I got out the service. I would come from overseas in 46, I married, I went back overseas, stayed 3 or 4 months and came back. I got out in 1947. And from then on, my way is to push to get something right in Mississippi, because I'm American, and I paid my price. And I felt like I should be treated like any other citizen. I wouldn't like for nobody to give me anything. I just wanted an opportunity like any other person.
So when you you tried but weren't able to register in 57, what did you do after that?
What did I do after that? Well, paid the poll tax 2 or 3 years old. I paid my sales tax, tried. And 1965, 16th of February, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Civil Rights Commission had a hearing in Jackson. And I testified against the state of Mississippi. My wife, my sister-in-law, and a cousin, and Janita Blackwell from Issaquana County to deny black people the right to vote. So when the Voting Rights Act passed, we had already testified against it. And then it come with, you know, to integrate the schools and things. So Issaquana County and Shaka County, kind of twin county, we had more people to sign a petition to integrate the school. In 1965, I believe, in the county state of Mississippi, we had 360 some odd people to sign.
So then, you know, shortly after that is when you helped start the credit union. How did you first learn about credit unions?
Oh, to learn about the credit union, we had got some fund from American Friends Service, $5,000. And getting that fund from American Friends Service, it was we could set up some kind of little loan company in the county and let it back to people, because it's hard for them to get small loans and things of that nature, especially black folks for banks and things. You had to have somebody develop for you and things of that nature. And after the settlements march, the second march going to Selma, Alabama, Mrs. Blackwell and several more of the people from Issaquana County, they was on that march. And she heard people talking about a credit union. And we had a executive committee here, Issaquana County Executive Committee for Black. And we had about 15 people on 3 beaches, 5 beaches in the county. And we made a decision for the county, the black folks, in that organization. And she came back and at a meeting and began to talk about credit union. So I was the vice chairman, another guy, Mr. Siles, Henry Siles, he's the chairman. He's much older than I was, I was young and he's old. And here they gave me the privilege to set up a credit union, look toward that, how to set up a credit union. We had a law student here called Bob Fitzpatrick from Washington, D.C., white guy. And he came in the meeting, and he and I worked together, and he did all the legwork to get the credit union going. And we had our first meeting here March the 7th, 1969. We had our first meeting, and they elect me president of the board. And Henry Siles was the vice. Because I told them that before we lend the money out, we didn't have any no kind of type of authority to lend money and charge interest on it. And therefore, we formed the credit union. The credit union could do that. And that's how I started learning about the credit union. And after then, we started off with $5,000, less than $5,000, because we had to pay for our charter and all those different things, about $450. About $4,500, I think, when we actually started, because we had to pay service fee and things like that. And the first loan that we made was $50. And we had, I think this was $100, the maximum, $200, the maximum you could get. We didn't have $4,000, the maximum a person could get. And we struggled for quite a few years. But it's amazing that $5,000 a day we over $1 million strong.
How many, sort of, when you were first recruiting members, were it mostly, was it people all over the county, or were?
Yeah, all over the county. See, this credit union is chartered, you have to have a territory. It is chartered to work in Issaquana County, not outside Issaquana. Because people, you could join the credit union, move outside, they still state membership. Or like people can join their kids, the grandkids and stuff here. Because it's amazing how you look on the face of people, they save $100, $50 something when their kids, grandkids or great grandkids graduate out of high school to have that given to them. And it's just to look on their face and smile and the appreciation that they have. That's something they didn't want to even finish high school because they didn't have a possible chance to do that. But they're trying to help educate their kids. And our people have bought into the credit union. You have to know your territory, you have to know your income, your people, and the credit union is supposed to help people. It's how to save, how to invest, and get loan, but not to get more than they can pay back, and also save some money that they're on the side. Because this was all about, because you didn't have any place to go to a bank or finance company. Back years, black folks didn't, because credit union started in Germany and didn't make it to the United States until about 1930s. Roosevelt signed their, I think he signed the orders for credit union to come to the state of Mississippi, president. Mm-hmm. And I've been the chairman and CEO for the credit union since the beginning up until now.
And so as it grew, you were the chairman and CEO. What other folks? How did other folks get involved in the leadership and the board? Was it something where it's been a pretty consistent group, or have new people come in over time, or how does that work? Yeah,
well, you see, you have a board of directors. You have a credit committee. You got a supervisory committee, and we did have an education committee at the beginning, and then you got the board of directors. And so when people resign or people get ill or, pass away, we recruit new people. And it got spread in the county, and they found out where they could get them some money, get some things they need to help their families and things. We bought several homes and a lot of money we did on automobile transportation because they got to go outside of the county to the jobs. And that had been a tremendous help. And to look on the face of a young person, 22, 23, 25 years old, and come in and get him $20,000 or $30,000 to buy, purchase him a trailer house and thing, ownership, it makes you feel real good to see people doing that for themselves.
And so early on also, one thing I'm kind of curious about is, back in the 50s with all the issues with the voting and 65 Civil Rights Act passing, was there, when the credit union first started off, what was the credit union's relationship to the rest of the credit union movement in Mississippi? Kind of as predominantly black credit union, was there any kind of racial tension there?
Well, it's not too much because back around the 60s, the credit union knew something coming in the state of Mississippi. It wasn't too many black credit unions in the state of Mississippi. Because you got to understand, until 66, or 67, 66, I believe, we had to sue the state of Mississippi for to get a nonprofit organization charter in the state of Mississippi for black people to get it. And myself and Thelma Bond and Sidney Alexander had to sue against the state of Mississippi.
To be able to get a credit union charter?
To get a non-profit organization charter.
So the state would just refuse to charter any?
No, they didn't want to give charter to black folks. They didn't. Had one or two in the whole state. See, you have to understand that we didn't have 4 or 5 black lawyers in the state of Mississippi back in the 1960s, early 60s.
And so, but by this, so by the 70s, like for instance, at the league annual meetings and things like that, were those?
Well, all that thing changed, in the 60s, because back in 65 and early 60, 65, before 65, that 64, people began to meet and we had a movement, coal folk came in Mississippi, and that's to get people registered for settings and various things, that integration to come up. All this type of thing began to move, and people started moving and coming together. As long as I keep you apart, keep you divided, I can comfort you. But once you begin to come together and solve things that are better for yourself and your future, your children, where people, that black folks gel together, were together. And wasn't no turning around. And so, right now, Mississippi got more black elected officials than the state of the United States of America. And back in 1950, if you had elected officials, you may have one up that mile bar or something like that. Back other than that, no.
So it's been a complete shift.
Right.
And so another question I have is one of the big trends in the credit union movement has been towards, kind of credit unions consolidating, becoming bigger, becoming professional. And you has there been any pressure on your credit union to kind of follow that?
But I don't go for pressure, because can't nobody pressure me into doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's you defeating the purpose. Consolidation is defeating the purpose.
What do you see as the purpose?
Huh?
When you think of when you say it's defeating the purpose, for you, what is the purpose of the credit union?
The purpose of the credit union was organized, set up for small people to make small investment and to pool their resource and lend it back to themselves, because they couldn't get convenience type loan. Now, why you want to consolidate to go back in the same thing you just came out of? That doesn't make any sense. But the people running the credit union, newcomers, they don't understand that. And this credit union, as long as I'm here, ain't gonna be this consolidation.
What do you think are you said you think it's kind of newcomers who don't understand? Like, what do you think are the things that have been kind of missing from people's understanding that's been driving that?
Facts of business, you're hiring these young kids out of college, and they've been trained to get large. That's all they know. To get large. Everybody want to get to be millionaires. And they're forgetting about the people who the credit union was designed to help. These people, and an urban person cannot set and make rules for rural areas, because they're two different things. Where the people in the rural areas, they used to work season work, and the people in the urban area, they get paid a check every week, every 2 weeks or something like that. And it's different. It's a different setting. It's a different mindset. And how they pay their bills and how our people in the rural area pay theirs. And so you don't have enough people at the head to understand that. It's not the small credit union that put the credit union in bad shape in this housing swamp went in back here 4 or 5 years ago. It wasn't a small credit union. These cooperative credit union. Mm-hmm. Those are the one, and the small credit union got to pay your fees for that. And it looked like to me they need some training, because this credit union, we've been in operation since 1969, and I haven't lost $5,000.
So when thinking about that, you said you have a credit committee. So how do you feel like the credit union, has kind of handled delinquencies and things like that in a way that you haven't lost $5,000? That you've been so successful at that. What's made that possible?
It made it possible due to the fact that when we first began, you arrived about you need to let the money out. It wasn't $200 or $150 like that. $300, you just went up that until you got working there at 30,000 now. But and when you get the money out there like that, then the people cannot, they don't meet their monthly obligation. They get behind, they get a lot of delinquents, then they come in and want to close you down. But they didn't want to make the pitch to do that. And so I decided, there's another way to do it. I don't have to listen to you all. And I've been very successful in keeping my delinquency long list down, knocked down. If you're part of something, then you put some money into it. So they put 20% for every $100 they want. And they can't throw that money out to you. Well, if you get a $30,000 loan, you're talking about $6,000 in your shares. 20%. And that money's still till you pay your loan out.
So, one thing, and that's kind of connected with like the NCUA. It's kind of, there's a controversy when they decided to implement share insurance. Was it 1970, 1971? What's been kind of your experience dealing with sort of share insurance and the regulator and all that? Has it been something where you feel like there's been ever like any kind of tension there, or has it been a cooperative relationship, or what like how's that played out?
Well, you say share insurance, what you pay for your insurance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think it's helpful to a credit union who may fall in bad, and they have something to lie back, and especially if they're the individual who have their money there. It's just like the bank.
Mm-hmm.
That you will not lose a certain amount of your money. Just like now, the maximum amount you can have in your account is $250,000, I believe. Yeah, around $250,000. And if you got something under that, you lose. But if a credit union go bad, at least you got $250. If you got $260, you're gonna lose $10,000, but you still got $250,000. And I think that's good for credit union.
So one of the things I think it was like in the beginning of the 80s, the NCUA went around there was a push to kind of shut down or merge a lot of smaller credit unions. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have any kind of worry about them doing that at that time, or was it were you guys always pretty solid and stable, and that wasn't an issue?
I don't worry about that. I worry about and talk to my members, pay your loan properly like it's supposed to, keep our delinquency down, and hell, they can't shut you down. And I'm thinking about the people. I'm not talking about those communities, because I don't think the United States, they waste too much, number one. They waste too much. All this unnecessary stuff that we have to get and do. I don't need a telephone here, but I got to have one now. I didn't need a dang computer. The magnet, I done good with the magnet. Less expensive. Now I got to pay service charge on the computer. I got to pay telephone. I got to pay for the dang internet, what they call it, all that kind of stuff. I don't need that stuff here. But this is what you got to have. So if somebody head ain't screwed on right. Because they hurting smaller people. They're not helping smaller people. They're running too much small credit union out of business. How you going to establish and get somebody to learn how to save, how to invest money, what it means if you're going to put it on a larger scale and you got a headquarters in Jackson and people up here, nobody out here to talk with them. See, something wrong with the leadership of this country. All they get is for money. They're taking all the industry out of the state and carrying it overseas. And they didn't know a day was coming. If you don't have jobs for people to work in the United States, they can't push you to good. Now they're stupid, they want to bring them back to the state. So something wrong with them. All they look at money. And the more loans I can get out there, probably like banks and things, my salary goes up. The credit union ain't about that. I worked for this credit union 30 odd years with now quarter.
And do you feel like there are other credit unions that are similar, that have folks who have been in a similar position of doing this as a purely volunteer thing?
I can't speak to that. I don't know, because, all people now, especially when you go to college, I don't know, my kids come out of college, they finish good college, like my kids did. But they trained to want to make $100,000 a year. And they don't have a mindset for what I have. Of my thinking line. Because I think every working, able-bodied person should have a job to support themselves. That's my thinking. I don't need no 1,000 acres of land. I'm a farmer. I was a farmer. But I need enough to survive off of it, live decent. When I get older, retire and take care of me and my wife. Put my kids through college and things. But I don't make it out of I'm gonna die and leave it anyway. But they're too greedy. They're just too greedy. And their greed is gonna hurt their own self, to hurt this whole country. That's my feeling. I could be wrong.
So do you think that that in some ways the credit union can allow for people to sort of learn a different way from that kind of greedy mindset? Do you think there's like an educational component to it?
I really don't know. I think about that quite a bit. But you got to understand, this country have indoctrinated in the younger generation that $100,000 and a big job and a boat and a big house. And they don't understand that one day they're going to leave it all. And that's all they strive for. And your college teach them the same thing. Credit cards and all this type of stuff. They don't know. Stay in debt. Tuitions in the state of Mississippi is too high. Building big football stadiums. And all this type of thing for those kids to go out to get killed almost. Playing professional sport or playing sport in college and stuff. A lot of them getting brain damage and everything else. And what they got out of it. And somebody clipping the hand and going on. So something wrong with the mindset of the people in this country. You have to let it, then take it over the country. And there's something wrong with the mindset of the head people in the United States of America. They don't think about the effect that those kids have on those kids out there running and playing football and stuff. Why is 20 men jump on one man all over the top of him and hitting him and all that kind of stuff? That's stupidity. But that's what they pay their money for to see.
So what do you see as kind of looking to the future about this credit union and the credit union movement in general? What do you see as the steps that would be good to take to kind of?
Well, at the rate the way the credit union going now in the leadership, it's not all people in the leadership of the credit union feel like that. Because I had some young examiners come in to sit down and talk and everything. And after they be in the business for several years or so, they can see it. But they got to make a living on that. They're just doing with the jobs they do. But I don't know. I couldn't answer that question. Because the mindset of the leaderships of the credit union, and I get all type of news and read it and stuff, they fall from understanding what their job is, what they're supposed to be about doing, according to what the credit union was set up for, and who is supposed to be helping. They're full removed from it.
And do you think that that's something that has just kind of has been an inevitable thing, that's sort of the direction things have headed, or do you think that do you think there are certain reasons why the leadership has taken that mindset? Because
the leadership want to follow suit. The banks, they're fighting each other, the banks and the credit union, and one will get bigger than the other one, and things of that nature. And as I folks say, they've been trained that way. And Lord knows, I don't know who God gonna have to change it.
So one other thing I was wondering about the experience of your credit union is kind of how the kind of democracy piece is played out. It being a co-op and having an elected board, and you have annual meeting and all that. Sort of how involved have members been in the credit union?
Well, I'm not down on the members. And I wouldn't want them to feel that way. But they got the same mindset. All they want to know a place where I can give me some money. And pay it back, and they're gone and happy. See, they don't realize what the value of a credit union is, what it does for them and the coming generation, to start thinking for themselves, even trying to indoctrinate their kids that the budgets, they don't even know how to set budgets. And you can't live above your income. Live within your income. And those types of things they even taught in school now. So how you gonna take a person that doesn't know that and put him over something to operate? He don't understand. I don't care what that. He can have a PhD, still don't understand. Because his feeling's not there. All they want to say, what I want on a clean slate. This credit union here, we charge 1%, 12% from the day one, and we can charge 18 cents, and we haven't did it. I haven't did it. We haven't did it. Because that's defeating the purpose. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to learn people how to live better, how to save some money, how to educate their kids, how to ownership of their home, and different things of that nature. That's what I feel that credit union is about. Right now, I can't make a loan to a person to drive $30,000 trade. It's too much red tape. It's unnecessary. Flood control. He's charging more I have to pay somebody extra on the outside to do some things, to make a home loan. Now that's stupidity. And so the stupid people who sitting up in Washington, everywhere up there making these rules, they need to be. They are the person need to be have nothing and come up, and then they could understand how a person feels that doesn't have anything. And you talking about pull yourself up out your bootstrap and all these types. That's a lot of talk. But if you never did it, you don't know how it did. Robert Kennedy, I made a presentation to him back in the 60s and 70s. And we was on the committee to save the children of Mississippi. I served the board of directors, the first Head Start program coming in. And got fired from my job, because I worked at a farm, worked the job in factory too, in 65, August. And it was in 65, 66, when I was on this committee and made a presentation to Robert. He's a senator then. That's after his brother got killed, because his brother got killed, I was working with Frank. And he said to me, and I never should forget it, he said, Mr. Hall, he said, I never wish for nothing a day in my life. He said, but you know what you're talking about. And said, I have sympathy for the cause. But this afternoon, when the vote come up, I'll tell you, I'm going to vote for the restore money back to Head Start. And I never should get that conversation I had. I was on the committee and I made the presentation. So it's a lot of people who have had all their lives, they have a different feeling for a person that haven't had. See, my kids, they never wanted for nothing. They had things. Because I made sure that going to college and go to the best colleges in Mississippi. Because I know this is what it takes in education. I don't care what you could do. I've never been to college a day in my life. But I have been denied a job because I didn't have the credentials. But I have trained the person who was over me. I interviewed the person who's going to take the job. Now I can interview you. I can tell you how to run the company, but I can't get the pay because I ain't got no pay. And I was denied the opportunities to get it. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
So, in terms of the kind of the future of your credit union, do you have? Are there folks who have gotten involved who you feel like will be kind of carrying it on sort of into the next generation?
Yeah. I know that was coming. But it's routine because I'd be asked that all the time. See, I'm 8 or 9 years old myself. And my son, he's graduated from Mississippi State. It's amazing. And he were, at his time of death, he's the president. And I was the CEO, vice president. And my whole plan was, my plan was been to walk out the credit union this time. He died 5 years ago, after he retired. Because he retired from, he's a manager at Uncle Ben's in Greensville, Morris. And he put 20 years there and he retired. And so I was going to walk out and he's going to take over. I don't have that now. I wouldn't sit up here and tell anybody that. You don't have people in a rural area like this area to draw from. Due to the facts that most of these kids get an education and go to college, they got to go somewhere to find a job because there's nothing in this area for them to do. And I've been asked that question a lot of times, what's going to happen? And my question that I tell them, I said, the Lord, if the Lord intends for us to provide, He'll have somebody ready. Because my thinking, my room for Him to take over. Because He was the person close to it, He's knowledge of it, He's been with it ever since He's a kid. And I know He could do it. But there's a lot of people don't have that patience. And the credit union is a business. It's not a friendship. It's not a kinship. Or no other kind of ship. It's a business. And you have to operate it like a business. I don't care if it's my kids. If they get a loan, they pay it back. If they don't, they do what everybody else does. I don't care who it is. And a lot of people don't like it for that. And a lot of people want to have friendship. And you can't run a finance institution with friendship. You just can't do it. You got to treat everybody right. I don't care who it is. And I don't care who it is get a loan, the same policy. I pay you the same dividend. If you got $100,000 out of it, if the man got $2,500. But that's what it's supposed to be like. It ain't because you got a lot of money. You ain't got no way. Man, I don't care how much money you got. And I don't work for nobody from here. No boy going to shoot nobody for the work for me. Don't nobody have to step. Because I don't have friendship with anybody. And that's why I did. I was in the commissioner's office at 18 years old in service. I was the youngest in my outfit. And I've always stood my ground, the thing I believed on. So I don't have that answer. Who would be the next person to take this trade? I really don't have it. I would wish, I hoped I did, but I haven't seen that yet.
What do you think are sort of the qualities that someone, for someone to sort of be a good credit union leader? What do you see as the most important qualities for that sort of person to have?
Number one, I think a person has to be honest with himself. That's number one. I don't think you can pay favoritism. I don't think you should take the advantage of people. I don't think you should take advantage of nobody. And I don't think you should have favoritism by making loans out. I think you should treat everybody equal. I don't care who they are. It's not the skin color. I don't care who the kin. I don't care who it is. Everybody should be treated equal. And the same thing would go to a person who got a $200 loan, the one got a $20,000 loan. The same, I think, go with all of them. And I think you have to keep your board informed of whatever happens. And a lot of times they don't be making it easy. You be making it for them, but you don't have to take the advantage of it. Because when people get confidence in you and you don't show them or do anything negative or wrong, and they get you build trust in you, where you can steal them blind. But I don't think you should be that type of person to do it. You don't take advantage of it. Because a person don't take advantage of it. And I'm responsible for people's money. I have a bookkeeper here, she just met as my bookkeeper. And when I hire her, if I don't hire nobody with sticky fingers, I tell her. And I let them know I'm going to check behind you. Every day I'm going to check my bank book when I come in here. I know what to check for you. I want to know who. And that's, so you check behind me too. If I make a mistake, you let me know. Let's straighten it out. I ain't covering up for you. Because I'm going to take you to the boat when you do wrong. And if you do wrong, I want you to understand I got enough in your folder to fire you. And stand on my ground, and I got a reason to fire you for. Because I keep the report on. And that's what I think everybody should do. So, as that folks said, that's a question I just can't answer. I wish I could.
So any other kind of final thoughts you'd like to share, or any stories or things about the credit union you feel like you'd like to kind of have other people know about?
Well, you know, I would say this. The Mississippi Credit League here has been a tremendous help to me. Because I'm a member of the league, but there's nothing that I have sought from them, no type of information that they haven't got. And they have been